Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. My guest today, Michael Piermont. He's the president, chief revenue officer at LeafTrade. Mike, thanks for being with us at the Talking Hedge.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Appreciate it. For those that don't know, LeafTrade and Sweed are technology companies that specialize in the cannabis industry. LeafTrade provides tools for business partners and streamline the entire ordering, payment, advertising, and reporting process, while Sweed's private label platform offers solutions including point of sale, in-store kiosks, delivery analytics, and marketing. So lots to talk about. I think first of all, let's maybe kind of dive in and address the elephant in the room, which is like what made you guys decide to merge?
Yeah, so it's the old boring game of we had like-minded clients. We started seeing a lot of our clients look at Sweed, migrate to Sweed. We had a common investor who put us in touch, and we started looking at not only the markets, the folks that they were going after, but really kind of how they built their core technology. Really taking an inventory first approach and then pushing, marketing and loyalty. And that's really something that LeafTrade had also kind of built our framework on. And so quickly a partnership turned into, what happens if we do this? And that was it. And we started, collectively putting the pieces together behind the scenes, working with, like I said, some customers that they were close to migrating folks from. And then also looking at the piece that no one's talking about is how do you connect the B2B world into the B2C world? How do you get the inventory into the POS? How do you get information out of the POS, vendor manage inventory, all those things that no one had really addressed, but now was top of mind because of, the market conditions and automation being so important. So, the short answer is we met, we realized we did things while on different sides of the markets very similarly. And then I think the market conditions really spotlighted the kind of supply chain area in the middle that no one's addressing.
Was it easy? I mean, for me, logically, it makes 1,000% sense to find a strategic partner and to merge because of those advantageous, post-merger benefits. You're accretive. You're better together than individually. But was the process not worth it? But was it? And easy is a stupid word. So, would you do it again?
Yeah. So at 100%, do it again. We would all do it again. The process post-deal has gone even better than we expected. The process coming together was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done in my career and that we've ever done. And I think it was just because everything around us was very volatile, not only in cannabis, but fundraising and just the landscape in general. And so it was really hard for us to say, I know there's a fire out there and I know there's grenades coming, but we're good. And this is a good deal. So for those reasons, it took a while, longer than expected as usual, but, the deal is simple. The companies fit together from a management as well as a personnel standpoint. They've really done a great job of building up the tech side of things, way bigger than LeafTrade. And LeafTrade has a really well-defined and built out commercial team and back office team. So as you mentioned, the savings as well as the horsepower bringing the teams together is something that has happened right away. And we were really kind of acting as one unit, arguably, 40 to 60 days before the merger closed anyway. So I guess that's the benefit of a long closing cycle, is you get to know the other side, they get to know you. There's benefits there. So we feel really good. And we've had really, really good feedback from the market. Current customers, new folks who both sides have started talking to have come, back to the table. So we're really excited about it.
Mhm. Is it easier to raise capital now that you are together than before? And how is the market now? I know that just myself, I've got a fintech company, an app that alerts you when to buy and when to sell stocks and crypto. I'm going to Silicon Valley next week to pitch to some investors for 7 to 8 figures. And I know that the valuations have deteriorated significantly. I don't think cannabis is outside of that destruction or destructive force behind it. What's been your experience on your own valuations in the last year, and does it make it easier to raise capital together?
Yeah, so I'll take the second one first. It absolutely has been easier to raise capital together. The story's bigger. When we go into a large multi-state operator, there really is a one vendor land and expand story there where relationships are important, and understanding how these companies operate in different states. It's easier for them to use less vendors, more cost effective, but also we forget these companies don't have as many folks to run these different systems, right? So consolidation is more important. So it's definitely been easier to raise capital. We have been so focused on making sure the unit economics of the business can support the business and that we're not just living off fundraising. And so we did raise a little bit of money as part of the merger. We didn't announce that, to kind of fuel even more development, to build kind of that middle function in the supply chain we talked about. And we've been very strategic on who we've taken capital from and when we have done it, and we've raised a little more. But for us, it's the capital is really the cherry on top, and we, are opportunistic when it's there, but you just can't depend on it because of times like this. I think what the cannabis industry is really reckoning with is, because it's so fragmented, you had a lot of companies, especially on the tech and ancillary side, that were great in one market and really had trouble taking their product or kind of their service or story to different markets, right? Just because if it's a marketplace type tool, you've got to build up, the liquidity on the marketplace. If it's a compliance or seed to sale or retail tool, there may be different touch points that you have to build before you get there. So our strategy has always been, focus on the large companies where you can build kind of within their stack, and as they expand, you can expand with them. Mm-hmm. And we've never had a tough time raising capital on that, but we've also, we're not out there trying to raise $150 million because frankly, we don't think this business needs it or could support that kind of capital raise. And I think that's the important thing, is you got to do something with the money. And when you raise too much, you start opening other lines of business that take away focus and capital from, what got you there. And some companies do it because, why not take the money? And some companies do it because maybe their first or second service or product isn't working, and here's a way to kind of fuel something else. Mm-hmm. We've stayed really focused on, the LeafTrade side, order management, B2B wholesale. We've stayed away from logistics. We'll partner with logistics companies, and we've really stayed away from lending or factoring, and just focused on kind of the goalpost in the actual transaction, and then post-transaction and the integrations with tech.
Yeah, you mentioned something that kind of just reminded me of Tilray. I always look for an opportunity to throw them under their bus, and so appreciate that. It was the fact that they came out saying that they were a CPG company, then they don't really resonate with anybody. The soccer moms found alternative products, and now they're a zombie being held up by Hexo. So understanding the industry, I think, is really important. You have to know a little bit about the culture. You can't just come in and yep. I think that's why a lot of these celebrity cannabis companies, because they consume it, they just don't really know how to distribute it. And there's all these other factors that are in play for that demise, I guess. And so, how do you get the word out there? With LeafTrade, you talk about advertising, and yet up here in Washington, where I'm at, last 10 years, you can't do any of that. So some of the workarounds have been, there's an Uncle Ike's dispensary, low price discount retailer, and the owner ended up buying a car wash, and so you'll see Uncle Ike's, in big words on a bus, because he can advertise the car wash, and then really small print it'll say car wash, so you don't know the differentiation between the businesses, and that's his workaround. Billboards were okay one day, not the next, and they're fine now. But how do you guys actually help businesses with advertising given the constraints?
Yeah, so what's cool on the LeafTrade side is we own the platform, right? We own LeafTrade. We actually have a marketing team that builds campaigns and, emails, ads within LeafTrade, right? Our goal is not to have people fighting over the same product or the same shelf space. It's really to educate the buyer so they can use LeafTrade to make their buying process more efficient, easier, get all the information. So we don't have some of the constraints that you talked about because we're B2B, right? And these aren't consumer-facing billboards. On the Sweed side, one of the challenges is, how do you, Josh, put in your information on an e-com system, register for a Jane or Dutchie, right? Put your order in, go to the marketplace. Maybe now you're looking for the cheapest cartridge, right? So now you've gone away from the original store you were going to go to. That's not great for the store, but on the back end, that e-commerce system has to connect with a POS. That POS then has to connect with a loyalty program. All of that stuff has to flow, which doesn't work back, or else now you're buying stuff and you don't know how many loyalty points you have. Maybe you could have bought more. And so all of that ends up into a transaction. And now, where are you pulling the data from? Are you going to get the loyalty data? Are you going to use the POS data, the e-com data? Are you going to merge it together to decide who and what to market to, right? Whereas the beauty of Sweed is it's one platform. So you don't sign up for Sweed, you sign up for that store, right? And you go to that store's website, you buy Sweed powers it, right? But again, that same email address or phone number is also loyalty. It's also your point of sale, your customer record, your medical record if you go there. So now you can actually create segments and market to them, right? And the segments are based on their actual buying history, right? Which is very easy to do and compliant, right? Hey, thanks for shopping into the store. We have this, we have that. So even just making the system all in one gives them more power marketing. Now, if you take it a step up, and let's say you have a multi-state brand, now you can offer loyalty programs across the country, right? If I go to Curaleaf all the time in my hometown, which I do, there's one in Deerfield, and I land in Arizona, it doesn't, my app or the phone doesn't say, hey, there's a Curaleaf, down the road, use your loyalty points there, accrue more points if you can't use them in different states. And so just having that one system that's inventory out allows these companies, to actually operate with operational leverage, right? Being a big company, you're supposed to do these big things. And I think because the cannabis industry has grown, and the reason it's grown is through fragmentation and kind of putting all the pieces together, there's just a little bit of a resetting of the deck.
What are the discounts that you're seeing? Because in addition to everything else, you guys offer analytics over at Sweed. Did you guys see anything in particular happen on 420, which used to be the biggest day of the year? And as things are normalizing, we're seeing Green Wednesday before Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, 4th of July, becoming bigger days. And yet, there's other analytics companies like Headset putting out, oh, look at this 420, heat map and how the sales were just crazy. Yes, but at what cost? 40% I think was it was like 39.5% was the average discount in Washington State that day, which is insane if you have to offer basically 50% to get people off their ass, because COVID, in my opinion, screwed that for everybody, all these retailers, which is a good thing for me. I'm not complaining. So what we saw was to get people off the couch or go and buy stuff during COVID when people didn't want to go anywhere and we don't have delivery, which I want to touch on next, is to incentivize them with discounts. So we literally have 30% off 3 days a week: Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. Saturday's internet only, and then everything else is you can walk in and get a third off. So what are discounts that are being offered now? It's probably being text and product specific or day specific. What are you seeing, and is that the only way to get people in the store?
No, definitely not. Now, we're at LeafTrade and Sweed. We're a little bit skewed as we work in some newer markets, right, where price hasn't come down all the way yet, but it will, right, with a little more saturation. We saw average discounts around 25%, kind of some areas closer to 35%. So not that much drastic. The prices are also a little higher there as well, so maybe not the need to discount as much. A lot, we also, I'm sure you heard about some of the point of sale and e-com providers that had major outages on 420. Sweet didn't, and what we saw were a lot of really good discount programs that were built kind of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? So it was 420 was like the kickoff. You see this on Black Friday, right? Black Friday is the big day, but those discounts, if the product's available, are still usually there Saturday and Sunday, right? And so we saw a lot of good stores do that. We saw a lot of good stores kind of build, the activation of these 3-day sales, food. We saw a lot of brands come into stores and, buy food trucks, buy music, give samples out, yada, yada. So, I think the weather had a lot to do with it. I think it being on a Thursday and rolling into the weekend had a lot to do with it. But from what we saw, we saw a big uplift in 420 this year, and we saw, 420 being better, but also we saw the Friday and Saturday after 420 a little deeper than last year. So I think that, some of these new markets or newer markets are kind of getting the hang of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also interesting because there's people that are moving towards delivery, so they don't want to just go into the store. 420's got a huge line,
Yep.
whatever, and people are kind of navigating towards that. And yet, I was looking at a BDS analytics report about demographics, and it says data shows that convenience is a top driver of shopping location choice. Price and convenience are always those two common things, no matter what it is. But 36% stated that the retailer being close to their home or work is a top priority for delivery, which, like, why would that matter, I guess, is one question. But what are you seeing with delivery? I would love delivery. I would order more if I had delivery. I tend to, order more when I run out. Other people order like on a specific day because of the discounts. What are you seeing? What are the trends on delivery? Because it's illegal in Washington still.
Yeah, I mean, people love delivery, right? And we're still in our early phases. It's in a few markets. There's a few providers. Most people like delivery folks that are close to them for two reasons. One, it's usually probably the store that they generally shop at. So their points, and they know the supply and they know what's going on, and they generally feel comfortable with the prices. Two, because there's not a ton of delivery providers, and there's not, 1,000 dispensaries within, maybe in certain states, but most states, most people pick the closest store to them because they think it will get delivered faster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the technology doesn't really tell them differently. So that's it. I think delivery is kind of the next phase. I also think that warehousing and docking will be really important. just-in-time inventory will be really important, right? A lot of these companies are going through really large buying processes, buying all their inventory, sitting on all the inventory, selling it, doing it again. So that's another reason why we believe connecting LeafTrade and Sweed, helps so many folks, like understanding when they sell products so they know when they need to have products on their shelves is going to help everyone, right? And so some of those things, there just needs to be some groundwork and some connectivity before you can really put some of those processes in place.
It's maddening, Mike. It drives me nuts because they have this 3.5 gram blunt, 30% off. It's only $18, and yet the company is so inconsistent. And yet it's let me take a step back. It's not the company. The ordering at the retailer is so inconsistent because I thought initially there must be spider mites, it must be ordering, it must be supply, it must be no, it's just literally the person at the store has such high turnover. They don't have, because we have 1,800 SKUs in Washington State. So some of these guys aren't opening the bins to see what's empty, and for whatever reason, their software system doesn't show that it's at zero. And so I have to go in there literally, like before MJ BizCon in November, I was going in there in September going, where is it? October, where is it? November, where is it? And so people I was mentioning how people re-up their purchases. It says 42% of dispensary shoppers who buy on a weekly basis or more report going online to see the menu at a specific dispensary compared to 35% who shop on a less than monthly basis. So for me, I might look at a discount, and because I'm a pretty heavy consumer, go through about an ounce a week. And so I'm looking for discounts. I'm also looking for, natural, pesticide free, all of these other things. And I don't want to shop by THC percentages, which I'm still forced to in Washington. And I can't really go by terpenes, although I can go by happy or relax or some ridiculous stuff. So having said all of that, you got any feedback on what's happening and to improve any of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're here for. Getting a lot of times new inventory doesn't get shown on the e-com, whether that's pre-order or actually an e-com in-store ordering scenario, because they never manually put the inventory into the point of sale. And there may not be the connection between the e-com and the point of sale. So they get the inventory delivered, and because they haven't put it in the point of sale, it's not pushing, inventory out. And this is the crux of the problem. You're depending on one process to update another, to update another, to update another. So, in theory, you place your order on LeafTrade, the inventory comes in, the manifest, all the invoice stuff comes out of LeafTrade anyway. Now, since it's one company, that inventory will flow right into the point of sale, right? And then the manager would approve that they receive this exact inventory, right? And then boom, the second it's in the POS, it's out there, right? And to take it a step further, we can also set up where there's alerts. Hey, we're gonna have these blunts, ready to sell on Monday because we got a delivery on Saturday. So now you're arranging the foot traffic, right, when you want it. Maybe if you do that, you don't need to be open one more hour, or maybe, so there's all of these, kind of connections to just getting these manual processes automated. And at the end of the day, it usually helps the consumer, because the consumer is the one waiting around for them to refill. Mm-hmm. Cannabis consumers, I know I'm one of them, like we're really particular. We buy a lot. We don't have time to wait. It's usually like a stop before we have to do something or pick up our kids. And like, we don't have 20 minutes to go through everything, nor do the bud tenders want to figure out the puzzle pieces, right? And so a lot of these things start kind of opening the door to selling faster, running leaner. Eventually drive-through will be more prevalent. And like I said, there needs to be some foundational pieces that are interlocked together before this can happen. And we're already seeing it coming together with certain providers.
So you have in-store kiosks with Sweed as well. I'm really curious about the regulatory issues and the cost benefit on that as well, because it is nice having an online only line, except when on Saturdays when it's online only at 30% off, and there's no one in the regular line, in I don't know, 7, 8, maybe 10 people in the online order only line. And I want to get in and get out. You know, I really like the idea of not an ATM, a vending machine or a kiosk, so that when I order it online, I can pay for it, right there, because you still can't do like credit cards, whatever. But at least I don't have to wait in line. So is there going to be like this Amazon locker system where I can go in with the code, pay for it there, and get out? And what's the hurdles? What are the regulatory issues, and why is that not in the stores already?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you take a market like Illinois, everything has to be done in a pre-order manner. So even if you walk in the store, you have to go to someone and they'll have to punch in your order via an iPad, or you will have to punch in your order via kiosk. Sends the order to the person in the back of the house, they bring your order out, you pay. You can load up your profile and pay via ACH or one of the providers, but you basically can't just walk up to the register and say, give me 2 of these and 3 of these. Everything has to go through a system, right? And there's a lot of positives about that because everyone's just used to putting their order somewhere, right? I think will we get to a point where you walk in and you have all the technology that just says, here's what I took? And I don't think we will for cannabis for a while, because I don't really think the consumers really want a no-touch scenario. They just want a faster touch scenario. Like, you want to go through the drive-through, maybe you have a question. You don't need it to be completely robotic, but you also don't need to wait in line. And I think you're going to see, in some markets, curbside, drive-through. I do think potentially like monthly subscription boxes or weekly orders where, every Wednesday you kind of pick up your order. I think you're going to see some of those type of things to kind of smooth out, when people come in and, kind of the different scenarios that you pick up. But I kind of use this analogy all the time, and I think it's a pretty safe one, is, when you buy shoes, you buy sneakers, right? You buy them on Nike.com, you've bought sneakers on Amazon, you've bought them in the store, right? You've bought them at a weird place, a used pair here and there. You probably have your preference, but based on when you buy, what you're buying, how you're buying them, even for the same type of product, the way you buy it might change, right? It might change as you get older. I think mobile apps and loyalty have proven through all industries, but especially in cannabis, to be very effective. And like anything, the retail companies that are investing in their customers, taking time to teach them if they want to be taught, spending a lot of money on the experience, tend to do well, like any experience, right? I also think that the brands and the retail folks who are just trying to be true to the brand they're representing are also doing really well. If you're, a middle tier brand, that's okay, right? Like most of us, that's where we end up. Just be a middle tier brand. If you're a high end brand, be a high end brand. And we're seeing even the folks who are slightly more expensive, when they're sticking with their pricing, right, and they're not going up and down, the consumers can connect with those folks. When they're 30% off one week and full price the next week, and 40%, consumers, they don't understand, or your low cost brand. So, I think you'll see more development in brand connections with consumer, ease of use of their experience or platform. We're probably, unfortunately, a little ways away from the automated shopping experience, but there will be some automation on the back end. I do believe that Amazon type lockers or dock systems will be helpful for B2B, right? Where brands deliver to this central unit and then stores get just-in-time delivery from those lockers.
Okay. Kind of already answered my next question, which was the technology in the future in the cannabis industry and how you kind of see that vision. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be different distribution points, right? You're going to be able to buy cannabis in different forms in different places, right? You saw the deal with GTI in a gas station. They're going to be in casinos. They're going to be in sports venues. So the manufacturers, the processors, the brands will have different distribution points. I kind of, what we talked about with Nike, right? And everyone will play, a major role. And I think all that's going to happen is the dispensary won't be the only place, but the dispensary will kind of turn into, where it all starts, right? Like just a distribution point, which is great, right? They don't have to get bigger to sell more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think with that, we're gonna have to rule this one up. So I want to thank Michael Piermont. He's the President Chief Revenue Officer at LeafTrade. Appreciate you being on the Talking Hedge.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, where can they find you at though? Tell us where you guys are at. What's your website?
Yeah, so leaftrade.com or sweedpos.com or email me at michael@leaftrade.com.
Okay, we'll put Mike's information on LinkedIn if you want to contact him directly. With that, again, we're out of here. So I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.